Good morning. Welcome to PFlax the Morning episode 2. It actually is morning. I woke up early. It's 8:30. Yesterday I think I recorded about 10:30, so if I seem slightly groggier than usual, it's still pretty early. So TI, one of the things I saw in response to yesterday's episode was a couple of people on Twitter and someone on Reddit, I think, said, "This is how I know the international has started," and people saying, well, you haven't noticed that you load up the game and the streamer's right there and all the rest of it. I think there's a kind of a disconnect between people who play Dota a lot and watch Dota a lot. People who play Dota and don't watch it. People who watch it and don't play it. Those are like the three groups, really. Outside a fourth group, people who only watch the international, which is another thing. A bit like, I've heard this a lot from people who say, it's a bit like the World Cup. I don't watch football all season, but then when it's the World Cup, I'll watch football. And for some of those people, they only watch the final. And I think TI is kind of the same vibe, where there are some people who, they used to play Dota, they're still really interested in it, they still really like hearing about it and following it, but maybe they don't have the time to play it anymore, or the friend group that they played with doesn't play it anymore. People move on, and this is an old game. So for a lot of people, I feel like there are certain things that sort of signify to them that TI has started, and somehow my stupid in the morning videos are, some kind of, it pops up on the YouTube and they're like, PFlax in the morning, oh, that's TI, oh, okay, TI started. So we shouldn't be hating on those people, it happens. For the rest of us, Dota fiends, we're thinking about it all the time, but there you go. I want to talk this morning about Deadlock. Actually, I've been chatting to everybody here about Deadlock. This year we've actually got PCs in our room, which was really nice of PGL. It makes a big difference because obviously we're working shifts, and some people have traveled quite a way, so they got quite a bit of jet lag. So having a PC in your room means that either in your downtime or when you get up at 5 in the morning and you can't get back to sleep or whatever, you've got something to do. It also makes it much easier to do work like researching notes and questions and stuff like that. It's all much easier on PC, obviously, than tapping away on your phone or on a laptop. I hate typing on a laptop. Anyway, chatting to them about Deadlock. I've played a little bit of it. I haven't played a huge amount of it lately, but I have played a little bit of it. Some of the guys have played hundreds of hours of it. I want to just give you my brief thoughts on how it feels as a game, and I suppose what I think it's going to look like in a little, maybe once it comes out or when a few more players have played it. So first of all, if anyone doesn't know, Deadlock, I don't even know if that's going to be the release title, but that's the sort of, I guess, working title, if you like, for Valve's most recent game, which isn't officially out yet. It's in alpha, I think, maybe beta, but it's basically alpha. It is a 6v6, which is, obviously an interesting choice in itself. 6v6 is essentially a MOBA, a first-person MOBA. So it's like Dota if you had an extra hero each. There are 4 lanes instead of 3 lanes, and it's got Overwatch TF2 style fighting. More Overwatch than anything else, really. I've had people say to me that it's exactly like Dota but an FPS, which is something I do disagree with. Other people say it's nothing like Dota, which I also disagree with. I think it's an interesting idea. It's obviously, because it's early days, there are certain sort of flaws within the game that will need to be fixed. And there are other reasons that I think it's never, I could well be wrong, I don't think it's going to be massive the way something like Overwatch was, which huge, tons of people played that game. So the issue I have with a game that's sort of as complex as Dota, and Deadlock is very complicated. You've got your abilities, then you've also got items, you've got all different builds that you can do, because there's like a shop. If you load up the game or you watch a stream of it, when people open the shop, it's just like the Dota shop. When you're first confronted with it, it's like, what on earth is this? It's so much stuff. And you can tailor not only items the way you can in the Dota shop, but you can also essentially buff up abilities, kind of. So there's physical resistances, spirit resistance. So it's like buying armor and magic resist, essentially. And then you could also buff up your weapon and also your spells. So and then there are just items. They're just items that you can use. So it really is a very deep game. And I've only scratched the surface of it. I think I've probably played like 20 games of Deadlock. There's quite a big difference between all of the units that you can play, the heroes. There are towers, essentially. There is a base that people have to take. There are objectives. There is split pushing. There are creeps. There is last hitting. I think when I think about Dota and a casual viewer watching Dota, it's very hard to tell what's going on. I certainly know that streaming Dota, unless you're very good at it or you are able to attract that very large Dota audience, Dota has traditionally been a bad game to stream, because for people who just want to fire up Twitch and find a game to watch or watch a person that they know or like, they come and they see Dota and it immediately turns them off, because if you don't know it, it's insane. You ever seen that sketch? I think it might be a Dutch sketch. It might be Swedish, actually. It's a bunch of guys playing kind of a weird version of cricket where they have to open a little tiny door and go through it, and I think they have to... there's a chessboard and they do all kinds of weird moves like that. Anyway, it's quite a funny sketch. I can't remember what the name of the sport is. Someone might say in the comments. It's kind of a classic sketch of what it's like watching English sports, I guess. And if you don't know what you're watching, it's kind of got that vibe. Anyway, that's just a little aside. I feel like in terms of casual players, Dota was never about attracting casual players. Certainly for the entire time I've been playing it, there's been scant regard for casual players. It's not like there's an easier version of the game to slide you in. It's like, well, these heroes are easier, but it's still complicated, and the game itself is still complicated. So I think Deadlock is going to suffer a little bit from complexity, but I also think that's a good thing, because I don't think that every game should just be tailored to a casual audience. I think it's nice to have a complicated game that you can get your teeth into and that you can learn. And certainly when I was playing it, the first few times I played Deadlock was incredibly frustrating, because I had no idea what was going on. It felt the same way when I first started playing Dota. So I think in that regard, its complexity is going to add to its longevity for people that are into it. And I think it is, like Dota, going to be one of those games that you play and you're like, I love this. Like, I'm really intrigued and I want to know more. Rather than something where you're sort of like, yeah, it's okay. Because when you see a shallow game that you understand straight away, you understand that really there's nothing there. Because of its shallow nature, yes, it's easier to understand and to get into. But when you get into it, what's the payoff? Where's the reward? I'm studying this and getting good at this for what? There's no depth. And there are plenty of games like that, I think, where the simplicity of the game, in some cases, is its greatest downfall, because whilst it's easy to get into, people drop it quickly because it's actually quite boring. Deadlock is not like that. I think it is a very complicated game. There are a few problems, I think, that might be insurmountable for some people. One of them that I found is that because of the complexity of the team fights and the nature of all these spells and all these heroes coming from all angles, if you think about Dota, when I said this on my stream, so if you're hearing this again, I'm going to repeat myself. If you think about Dota, it's a fixed viewpoint. And when I'm in a team fight, I can see the enemy heroes, I can see what spells they're casting, I can see what items they've used, I can see the distance, I can even hover over a spell and see what range it is to this unit. And every time Enigma uses Black Hole, it looks the same. Every time Tide uses Ravage, it looks the same because of that fixed viewpoint. When you're playing Deadlock, the problem is, because it's first person, your view goes from being all around you to this, and because of the nature of perspective, when something is happening close to me, it looks different from when it's happening over there. So when I see someone using an ult and they're right in front of me, I can appreciate, oh, he's casting so-and-so ult. But what if they're here? I can't see it. And if there's a distant unit using a spell from further away, I can't discern it as instantly as I can that, oh, there's an incoming Venge stun, and I'll press my BKB, you know. Or if I'm playing Puck and I can phase shift dodge something, I can see it. And there are heroes that kind of have that phase shifting nature to them, an ability to dodge stuff. And I feel like it's much harder because you just can't see everything happening. You've also got, because of the first-person nature, everything kind of overlays. So sometimes something's happening here and here and here, and you have to kind of appreciate all three. In Dota, you'd be seeing them all. But in the first-person style of Deadlock, you're seeing them within each other. So it just adds to the visual complexity for me. For a very old gamer at this point, I found that very confusing. But I'm sure I'll get there. Maybe with enough games, it would become, I can see what's happening. Because it's just like Dota. There were heroes I hadn't seen before, spells I hadn't seen before. When they happened, I was like, what is happening? So again, maybe familiarity. But that, again, that's a nice layer of complexity where you want to learn. But for casual players, I think it'll be a turn-off. So I think Deadlock is actually going to be a game with quite a lot of legs to it. Because if it grabs people, they will feel paid off. They will feel like there's a payoff. Which is that the more you get into it, the more you understand it, the more interesting it is, the more fun it is. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. I personally hope they don't try and push it. I don't think Valve would. I hope they don't try and push it as an esport the way some companies did, like Blizzard did. When you try and force a scene like that, I think it kind of feels awkward. I think with Dota, they just sort of set up this tournament and they had this prize pool, but I didn't feel like they tried to restrain it. Do you know what I mean? The way that Overwatch League did, where it just kind of felt like this corporate product. I felt like an International felt cool when it started, it felt cool. So I think if they're going to do anything, it has to be cool. And it also kind of organic, I think. But anyway, we'll see. I'm interested. It's interesting chatting to everyone. Everyone's got a different take on it. So it's nice to see a new game and people excited by a new Valve game, Man. I tell you what, for anyone back in the UK, it is beautiful here in Denmark. It's like 26, 27 degrees today. It's like late summer. I honestly thought it would be getting colder here sooner than back in the UK. But as I'm back in the UK, it's kind of getting a bit more miserable, a bit more autumnal. Beautiful here. Sitting outside, having a beer in the evening. It was like beautiful sunset and clear skies. And it was really, really stunning. Really, really lovely. I saw a hummingbird moth as well. Hummingbird moth. I didn't think they came up this far. So congratulations, Denmark. You won me over yet again. What a beautiful country. I hope you guys are looking forward to the games. I know this group stage is a little unusual because, of course, essentially these 2 days just decide who gets to choose who they play for the game that decides upper and lower bracket. But I also think it's a nice way to warm up the tournament. Get some games in there. We get to see all the teams playing. And ease into the tournament. We've got plenty of Dotes left. And I know that we're setting up the arena and all the rest of it. So I'm hoping the excitement builds. I know it's very trendy on Reddit at the moment. And, for people to complain about TI and Dotes and stuff. But like I always say, the games will be the deciding factor. I really enjoyed watching the games yesterday. Hope you guys did too. Let's enjoy TI. Let's just enjoy TI. We'll save our criticisms for afterwards. Let's enjoy it while it's here because it's international. It's one of my favorite times of the year, apart from like Christmas and summer barbecues. That's another thing I love. I'd say barbecues, Christmas, and TI. My favorite things. So let's give it a chance. Also, any baseball fans out there, I know there's none of you, but on the odd chance there are like 2 or 3 baseball fans, how about those Mets? We are crushing it right now. We are crushing it. Francisco Lindor should absolutely be MVP. God bless the Mets. Let's fucking go, Mets. I will see you guys tomorrow. Cheers for watching. Peace out.